Hey, welcome back. All right, so in the last several tutorials, we have been building blueprints and assets and making things move and open. And our biggest one this last time has been creating our own platform from scratch, our materials for it, and then making it move. And we made it several different types of them so that they move in different ways for different reasons. And now what I want to do is jump into Milanote again, or whatever your game design document that you're using is, to kind of refresh ourselves about our level design, because I'm going to hit real quick on how you might want to use those platforms and maybe some of the other assets we have, and kind of talk through the vision for the game as we're moving forward, so that you can start kind of blocking out your game, doing a rough block out, and start trying out some of your assets and getting things to fit together and working on your concept. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it real quick. All right, so this is my Milanote, and again, my game was kind of cave-like. I wanted maybe some caves and dungeons. Maybe we eventually get to the outside for a temple for my level 3, but the first one is really going to be caves, and this is kind of the concept I was working on. And you can see I've got some cave ideas in here, some buildings. This is a huge cave. This is a dungeon that kind of came out of my design. Worked up on some lava material for it. And basically the idea is to move through like an obstacle course, maze type thing, and try to get to the portal here at the end. And we have different types of things that our player has to get by. We have to find some keys to open doors, and we have to find some power-ups, so some pickups that we haven't created yet, to be able to power the portal that we're going to try to find at the very end of the level. So let's jump back out of that. Let me talk through what I'm working on here. So this is my blocking out, and what this is just a cube from our modeling here. All I did was take a box and I made it 1,000 by 1,000 by 1,000. So that's big. And you can make several of these. You don't have just to have one. But for the beginning instance of this, as I start blocking some of it out for scale and for size, to see how big I want things and get a feel for where I want things to go, I like to use these big kind of cubes to do that. And you can, of course, like I said, have many different types. Now, one thing about this cube is that it is, I named it building block 1, and you need to make sure that you give it a collision. And since it's a simple cube, all you need to do is go here and do a simplified collision for a box. If you're going to use capsules, same things, and spheres, same things. You can just use these simple collisions. And if you turn the eye on over here to show simple collisions, you can see the green box outline. All right, so let's jump back into our sandbox. Now, what I've done is, my idea is that my player is going to get to this location. Now, I'm probably going to make this sort of like the beginning point, but there's going to be some sort of a portal, not like a door to get through. They have to have some sort of like a cave type door or an old wooden style door. I know we made these doors over here, but don't forget, these doors are based off of static meshes, and we can change out static meshes anytime we want. The biggest issue is getting the scale of that static mesh correct, right? So this right here is the scale I have right now. That doesn't mean that I can't use this same blueprint. I just got to, when I put the static mesh in here, rethink my trigger box and some of the things I might need to do to be able to get this door to open correctly. So, but again, you know, I can duplicate this. I can duplicate this particular, like we did for all these other ones, duplicate the blueprint, rename it to whatever type of door it's going to be. So maybe cave door, and then throw a new static mesh in there and mess around with it till it looks right, and then test out the blueprint and make some modifications if we need to. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. And then once my player gets into here, this is a interact one. And on this platform, one of the things I did that we didn't do in our tutorial was I added in a box trigger here. And all this box trigger does for the interactive one is this right here. Remember this display message when we go to the call station? So we have our BP call. That's this right here. This is the exact same thing. All I did was copy and pasted it into here. Now, before you copy and paste it, you will need to make sure that you have your box trigger named the same way. And you will also need to make sure you have your text render in here named the same way. And these need to be child of the platform. So in other words, they need to be attached to the platform so that they move with the platform. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of funky. And then the only other thing I did was, because I don't want the text render to stay visible the entire time you're on that platform, after 5 seconds, it disappears. So we changed the visibility back to invisible. So that's just that real quick. So the player gets on there, we interact, we go up. There is an automatic volume. So this volume right here, this little tiny cube is, this is a display showing you that you could just have a little tiny volume to control one platform up and down. Now, the reason why it's outside of the big one is because it causes problems if you have more than one of these volumes occupying inside the same space. So in other words, I have one big one, and if I had more than one inside of here, or any inside of here, it would actually make my platform stop as soon as I left this volume. There is a fix for that, but that's a future tutorial. If you decide you absolutely have to have this inside of here, this one inside of here, then that's something that I'll show you how to put in a future tutorial, because there's a couple features, as we like to call them, that we're going to have to fix if you want to do certain things with it. If you just want to throw a big volume in and have it control the platforms that are inside that big volume, then you don't need to worry about that. It just works perfectly the way it is. And then if you have enough time and space between one volume to another volume with platforms in it, it'll work just fine. But if you have platforms still moving and you leave this volume and you go into another volume right away, well, that's another feature, because these platforms that are moving won't stop moving. They will still move as long as you're in this one as well. And if you think about it, it's because of the Boolean. The way we have the Boolean set up, there's only one Boolean. Is player nearby? And it's true when he's in here. It's false when the player goes outside the volume, but it's true when you go back into another volume. And if the platform goes and checks after it's still moving and we go into this volume, and then it checks again to see if you're still in the volume and it's true, well, then it's going to keep moving, right? Now then, the platform here. So once we move along, I've got this platform kind of moving around this, and this is going to be like a giant rock in the middle here. Maybe there'll be something on here to get the player to have to jump off the platform and pick it up, some power up, maybe the key, the first key or something. And then the challenge would be to get back onto a moving platform as it moves by to get back over to this space over here. And then you can see I've kind of started working out maybe what this might look like a little bit. I've got some assets I want to try out. So I have these assets here and here that I've thrown in here. And I've tried a new material out. This is still one of these cubes. It's actually 2 cubes, but I've got a material that I wanted to try out to see how it would look with the rocks, so that I can keep this as my flat area and then cover it around the rocks so that my player, which is a ball, has a nice smooth surface to kind of roll upon, right? Makes it a little bit easier. And then you can see back here, I've gone to just having the regular cubes again. And I have several different things happening here. I've got a player interactable one over here that comes all the way around, moves around. The player doesn't see it. They're down. When they get here, they're going to call it, but they don't know what they're calling. And then they're looking around looking for it, and it comes around. And then they can start hearing it, and they see it as it comes around this way. There's also one here, which could take me off in a different path in a different direction. And another one over here, which can take me out in this path. So multiple different directions. Like I said, it's going to be like a maze. And this will be the bottom area is going to have a volume in it that will basically kill the player, maybe very slowly, but will kill them slowly. Once they get into the lava, they have a certain amount of time to get out before they die. Another thought was, with these other types of platforms, which I'll show you how to make, this platform moves around and can be like several of them moving short distances in different directions that the player can jump on to try to work their way across a lava obstacle like this. And that'll be a tutorial on how to make that. You could probably figure this one out on your own, just using the volume platform and taking out the things you don't need, like the player doesn't need to have sound for interaction. You can even change out the sound on it. And material changes don't need to be on it because it's just the one material. It's not changing colors. So you can easily make that yourself. But we will go ahead and cover it in a tutorial. So I'm coming up towards my end of time on this. I want to keep this one fairly short, but let me hit play real quick. And I'm over here. Nothing's going to move. Actually, this one platform over here will move. That one moves down there because it's controlled by this space. And I just called this platform here. This one moves kind of fast. It's going to throw me off probably. Actually, it didn't. You can see that one's moving that direction to the end. Once it gets to the end, because I left that volume, it should stop. That one I've already fixed, so that one should stop. Oh, that's weird. That's what's wrong with that one. All right. And you can see once I get in here, those other platforms over there and one over there start to move up and down. Okay, so I kind of threw a lot at you, but the real kind of gist is this one is to kind of show you how to maybe start putting some of these assets in there and get that mind working of yours and to get you start kind of blocking out, using your concept of what your game is going to be and start blocking out your gameplay area and start getting a feel for the scale of your game. Start thinking through your assets that you have, where you're going to want to find, and seeing how those fit in. So like I have those rocks already that are in the background. I wanted to try those out, see how they kind of work. They look okay from a distance, but up close, not so much. So that tells me I'm going to have to find some better model or something with better textures on it. But so those are the types of things that this is going to give you the opportunity to do. Also, because mine's going to be in a dark space, there's going to be at some point where we start needing to test things out in the dark, and I will go over that in a future tutorial, how we can do that. And a lot's going to keep coming at us. So again, if you have any questions, any issues, any problems, please throw something down in the comment section, ask a question, let me know what's happening. Maybe share with me what you're working on. I'd love to know that. Also, don't forget to like this tutorial if you liked what you saw. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for playing. I will see you next time.